Good evening, everyone. My name is Don Malati. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I'm very happy to be here with you this evening. A little bit of my background. I'm not a politician, I'm not an important person or anything. I'm just a worker. I work for a great company. I'm married, got a beautiful family that I love very much. I'm also a graduate student, so I'm about to finish my degree at a very wonderful university, Southern New Hampshire University Online. And this year has been absolutely fascinating. A lot of stuff has happened. Of course, the main thing that's happened, of course, is this COVID-19 pandemic, of which I was a victim of this past summer. So I know that this thing is real. And I know everyone's lives around us have been impacted by this situation. I normally don't do this. I don't go online or anything like this. But this is important this year. It's very important. In 3 days, we have and we will have the most important election in the history of this republic. And it is very important that people have their voices heard because our decision will impact the lives of our children and our grandchildren for generations to come. I've been appointed, in fact, I've been doing this, I will be doing it, working the polls. I'll be a poll worker for this year's convention. First time in my life. First time in my life I've ever done poll work for election. So why am I doing that? Because everything is on the line. Everything. Our jobs, our lives, our health care, the image of the presidency, our role in the world, everything is on the line. And this election will tell the world and tell ourselves what kind of nation we are. So this is very important to me. It should be very vital and important to you as well. And I'm making this broadcast because I care about my family. I love my children. I love my wife. I love my state and I love my country. But tonight, I really want to focus on the state of Ohio, which is, of course, where I live. There are a lot of misconceptions out there about voting. And as you all know, this country has some areas has some very stringent voter ID and voter processes. It's to the point now that many lawyers are going to possibly be involved after this election concludes. So there's a lot of uncertainty as far as participating in this election is concerned. But I want to say this. You have the absolute right to vote. That is your right. That is your duty. That is your obligation as a citizen and all of us as a people. And the evidence of it being taken seriously is out there. 90 million people have already cast ballots for this election. That is astounding. And I want to thank all of you for casting your ballot and making your voice heard. They're saying it could be over 100 million people that voted early when this election gets ready, when election day comes on Tuesday. So thank you for that. Thank you for expressing your opinion and making sure that your voice is heard. That is your right, and you must use it. But what I want to say now is that many people have a conception that it is impossible to vote, that the steps that are needed to vote are too hard or too difficult. In the state of Ohio, that's not the case. The state of Ohio has voter ID laws and voter processes. Tonight, for my friends in Ohio who have not voted yet and plan on voting on election day, I want to share some of those processes so that you can feel comfortable going to the ballots on Tuesday and making sure your voice is heard and that it will be counted. So let's start with the poll hours. Poll stations in the state of Ohio will open at 6:30 a.m. and will close at 7:30 p.m. exactly. When 7:30 p.m. comes on Tuesday, November 3rd, if you are in line to vote by that time, you will be allowed to cast your ballot. However, if you drive up in your car at 7:31 wanting to cast your vote, no dice. You will not be allowed to cast it. So those are the rules of the state of Ohio. Okay? Also, remember, there's going to be long lines. There's going to be maybe even come the possibility of voting machines breaking down, possibility of some discrepancies regarding certain votes. There will probably be poll watchers there representing both Democratic and Republican parties. Do not be intimidated by them. Their job is only to watch the polls, not interfere or intimidate your vote, no matter how hard they will try. Regardless of what happens around you on Tuesday, go and vote. That is your right. Expect long lines and bring a snack with you. Bring some water with you so you can stay energized and stay in line to make sure that your vote is counted. So the hours for the poll stations are 6 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. and they will close at 7:30 on the dot. If you are in line, you'll be allowed to vote. If not, you will not be. Next, I want to talk about voter IDs. The state of Ohio has laws regarding voter identification. And they're pretty basic and simple, but I want to run over them real quick, okay? And I just want to show you. This is coming from the election official quick guide from the Board of Elections of Hamilton County, and they have been endorsed by the state of Ohio. These are Ohio state laws. The most common form of ID that is used in Ohio is an Ohio driver's license or Ohio state ID. Both have they're photo IDs, and they must have your name, your current address or former address, and it must be valid. Now, for the state of Ohio, if your license expired on or after March 9th, because of the COVID actually extended and will be acceptable for this election. Say you had your license expired on April 19th, 2020. It's still considered valid and can be used for this election. Let's keep that in mind. You must have your current and former address and, of course, pictures, so forth and so on. Now, some of you have gone to get a new driver's license before the election, and you might have what's called the interim documentation. Your license isn't done yet, and you have a piece of paper that allows you to drive. If you have that piece of paper and it's valid, you can use it to vote. It's still considered valid. Okay? A valid date is an expiration date on or after March 9th, 2020. That's when the COVID-19 requirements went into effect. So you have about 8 months worth of time. That's about how long we've been in this circumstance. And all that time, your license is still valid. Your ID card is still valid. Now let's talk about some other things. If you do not have a voter ID, a state ID, or driver's license, or official documentation, you may also use a federal government photo ID. You may also use an Ohio concealed weapons ID, or in some instances, you may use a military ID. Now, if you want to use a military ID, make sure that it's cleared with the managers of the voting stations. But those are usable forms of ID. Now, this is a issue I want to bring up because this is very important. Some of you out there may not have a driver's license or a state ID or anything I just mentioned. If you don't have those things, don't panic. You can still vote. You can still get a ballot and vote. The state of Ohio will accept these documents as identification: a utility bill, a bank statement, a government check, a payroll check, or a government document. In order for it to be valid, you have to have your name, your state address, your current address, and it must be dated within a 12-month period. That will be from November 2019 to November of 2020. If you have a document with this information on it and it's dated within that year, you're good to go. You can use it as an ID to get a ballot. So don't let that situation of a lack of a photo ID stop you. You can still get a ballot and vote. Now, what's not acceptable as far as voter ID is concerned in Ohio is this: a driver's license from another state, a passport, a social security card, and any mail from the Board of Elections, things like that, that will not be considered valid IDs for voting. Now, I'll talk about this in a few moments, but if you come to the polls, we will not send you away. If you still want to cast a ballot, you cannot be sent away. All those things I just told you will get you a ballot. But even if you don't have any of this, you can still vote. You can still cast a ballot. Now, let me explain to you what happens with that. If you say you come in and you show up and you don't have your ID in any form, shape, they will ask you if you want a provisional ballot. And you must say yes, you want a provisional ballot. What they will do is they will give you an envelope for you to fill out and sign. Now, that's very important. You've got to sign that envelope in order for your ballot to count. Your ballot will be counted. Now, it might be counted at the end of the week, at the end of the night, after all the other ballots have come in. but your ballot will be counted. Okay? So you go in, they give you a ballot, you fill it out, you fill out that envelope, and listen, no poll worker can touch your ballot. That's one very important. No poll worker can touch your ballot. Okay? You will be doing all the work yourself because we cannot touch your ballots. Okay? So you put it in the envelope and you give it to the poll worker. There will be a specific poll worker that will be dealing with provisional ballots. You will give it to that person. And you will go in a special location and will be counted by the Board of Elections. Okay? Now, let's talk about this. This is very important. Make sure that you vote in the precinct in which you live. Now, say you move within your precinct area. Say you just move 2 or 3 streets down from where you were before. You will receive a regular ballot and be able to vote in that area. However, say you move from community to community. I live in Gulf Manor, which is in Cincinnati. When I first moved here to Cincinnati, I lived in an area called Westwood. So say I moved from Westwood to Gulf Manor, which I did. When I moved to Gulf Manor, I had to fill out a new voter registration form so that I can vote in my new precinct. If you had moved and you did not fill out a new voter registration form, you must use a provisional ballot. Now, like I said, that's not going to keep you from voting. You will still be able to vote. The only thing is, it'll be a provisional ballot. But nevertheless, it's a ballot. It will be counted. Also, make sure that you're in your proper precinct. If you are not in your proper precinct, the poll workers are required to tell you where you must go to vote. So you will have that information regardless. And understand this too. This will be a touchless election as much as possible. Okay? You will be using styluses. You've seen styluses. They're like long pens that you use on a computer screen. You will use those to sign into the vote, sign in to receive your vote. And listen, do not worry about the condition of your signature when you get in. As long as it's somewhat close to what you sign normally, it will be accepted because you will be using a stylus writing over a plastic sheet on a computer screen. We don't expect perfection. But as long as it's somewhat close to what you do, that's fine. The point is, ladies and gentlemen, is this. This election is far too important for us to stay home. It's far too important. So much has happened over the past year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So much has happened that we must take action to protect our rights and our democracy. So I hope that this message, this information that I have given you, you will listen to it and you will take it to heed. And you'll do your right and cast your ballot. knowing that it will be done safely and it will be done securely. I know there's a lot of folks saying there's going to be voter fraud. I research this stuff. I do this stuff for an academic, for my academics. And I can tell you, voter fraud is minimal. The protections in this state and other states, voter fraud is minimal. So you don't have to worry about your vote being frauded if everything is done right. That's why I'm doing this, to give you the information necessary so you can cast your vote safely and assure that that vote will be counted. So I hope this has been of some help to someone. And on Tuesday, that 13-hour time on Tuesday, we're going to change this country, and it's going to be the image of us that will last for a generation to come. So thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the rest of your evening. And let us pray for each other and our nation. Thank you.